Superman was a far from perfect movie, but it was a perfect Superman story. It felt like a DC comic book come to life in all the best ways, but also, unfortunately, it felt like a comic book in all of the worst ways. From jaw-dropping, massive scale fights to a painfully one-dimensional female character, to the well-meaning messages that are about as subtle as a sledgehammer, you would be hard-pressed to find any film that is more accurate to a DC comic book. Despite its flaws, this movie is wonderfully earnest and gives you a warm feeling that sometimes only a simple superhero story can. James Gunn's film, like its namesake, does not deal in murky gray areas but is wholly black and white. A tale of good and evil with no middle ground. It doesn't concern itself with the nuance of the real world because, for better or worse, it doesn't try to depict the real world. Once you step into the theater for Superman, you may as well be opening the pages of a comic book. I found Superman to be a refreshing breath of fresh air despite its flaws. This movie was the reset DC needed, but more importantly, it was the reset that Superman desperately needed in live action after the morally mixed Zack Snyder depictions and the countless evil Superman spin-offs like Homelander, Brightburn, and even the Injustice Superman. Superman is not here to win fights, he's here to save people. He cares about everyone. This movie was DC to its core. Before we get into everything great about the movie, and trust me, there is a lot of great to get into, I want to go over the aspects that were less than perfect. I referenced her earlier, but Eve, played by Sarah Sampaio, is so one-dimensional and ditzy it almost hurts to watch. Sarah isn't at fault here because it was clearly Gunn's vision. Gunsight? Is that something? No, anyways, but every time she was speaking, it was shocking how much she resembled an underwritten, overly boy-driven, female side character from a 1990s comic book. I can see what they were going for with her character, but it doesn't translate well to live action, and she has so much screen time and is so integral to the plot, it's almost impossible to just ignore her. She also makes Lex seem less competent for having her around so much. It can be explained by the fact that Lex Luthor would want someone around him he believes is pretty and dumb to stroke his ego, but still, thankfully, the brush Eve is painted with is not the same brush used to depict any other woman in the film. If I were a bit more cynical, I could call this movie unserious pulp, but no part of me actually believes that. It is understandable though why some would say it or think it. Now that we've covered what could have been done better, we can talk about what this movie did well, which is just about every other aspect of it. If I had to describe this movie in one word, it would be earnest. It's cut from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man's cloth in the most sincere and hopeful way. Superman does well to avoid falling into the oh-so-popular meta-commentary trap of making fun of itself. This movie can be wacky, it can be silly, but at no point does it stop taking itself seriously, and that is most definitely for the best. We've had so many stories in recent years, superhero or not, cut themselves down in the name of witty meta-commentary. It can work at times for certain stories, but it's become oversaturated and overdone. No matter how out there the material can be, James Gunn puts his foot down and says no. This film deserves to believe in itself. We care, and audiences should too. This movie touches on so many messages, and it's not subtle with any of them. It's often political, but the most important message by far is to be kind. Not just to others, not just to every living being out there, but to yourself. He's not just Superman, he's a man trying to do and be his best. It preaches that to be good is to do good, and I loved it. David Corenswet is Superman. There's no two ways about it, he embodies the character, at least the version we know from the comics, better than any other actor to ever play him. George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, Tom Welling, Brandon Routh, Henry Cavill, all brought something great and unique to their performances of the character, and embodied one aspect or another of Superman. But David Corenswet embodies every core tenet of Superman. His physicality, his kindness and care for every person on Earth, his righteous anger and frustration at not being able to fix everything and save everyone. His goofy charm as both Superman and Clark Kent. Corenswet truly is the big blue Boy Scout come to life. He gives a performance so earnest and so true to the character, it's hard not to love what he brings. Not to mention the palpable chemistry he has with every member of the main cast, from Lex to Lois to Jimmy to just about everyone he shares a scene with. They all click in just the right way. James Gunn nailed the casting of Superman and everyone else who matters in the movie. Lois, Clark, and Lex definitely stole the show, but everyone else is giving us great work. In the same way that David Corenswet is Superman, Nicholas Hoult is Lex Luthor. He becomes the character in a way that no previous actor ever has. Possibly more so even than Corenswet does Superman. Down to the auditioning of Superman for the role and then being cast as Lex, he could not be more perfect. He's driven by envy, hate, and ego. This is Lex Luthor. He's a D1, A1 hater, up there with the greatest haters ever put to screen. He may be the best, really. His willingness to do untold harm, not only to others, but to himself, in the name of winning, was fantastic, and that's Lex Luthor. Rachel Brosnahan is great as Lois Lane. She's first rate in every scene she appears in, but her Lois is at her best when she's in scenes alongside Clark, so that their unbelievable chemistry can sing. And man, they really do seem like a match made in heaven. From their very first interaction to their last, they feel like they're meant to be together. And not because they are Lois and Clark Kent, not because they're the female and male lead, but because this couple on every level works. They contrast and complement each other in just the right way. The rest of our Daily Planet crew are all shining in their roles too. Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen is out of this world. He's funny and dorky without being corny. Beck Bennett as the sports writer for the paper was the surprise of the movie for me. He doesn't quite have enough lines to steal the scenes he's in, but he was thoroughly entertaining throughout and consistently made me laugh. Wendell Pierce's Perry was good in the little screen time he had. In our Justice League, they added a lot to the movie. Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner was the casting I was most apprehensive of going into the movie, but he wiped that apprehension away as soon as he appeared on screen. He had some really great action here. He was funny without making it feel like he was a joke. Guy made me laugh more than once, and he had some really great action here. It was so refreshing to see a Green Lantern use the ring with some actual creativity. Isabella Merced's Hot Girl was very good as well. She did well to differentiate herself from the other heroes here. She was a bit cooler and also colder, and had her moments to shine, especially towards the end. Of the three though, Mr. Terrific, played by Eddie Gathegi, was my favorite. Granted, he did have the most screen time, but he had maybe the best action sequence in the entire movie. It was a bit reminiscent of the hallway scene in Guardians 3, except it was more open and he was a one-man wrecking crew. His abilities got the spotlight in a way that I can't ever remember being displayed so well in even his own Mr. Terrific comic books. Honestly, they knocked it out of the park, and that's not even touching on how great he was in every other scene he appeared in. It's kind of funny, James Gunn loves going back to the well of actors that he's worked with before or is friends with. Outside of 4 or 5 characters, every character is played by or voiced by someone James Gunn has worked with previously. Even the smallest cameos, everyone has a connection to Gunn. Not that it's a problem, because for my money, it's not. They're all fantastic performers. He just seems to do this more often than any other director I can think of besides Scorsese. Going into this, I was worried about Henry Brahm's cinematography, because The Flash was a washed out, hard to watch mess, and some shots in the trailer for this movie felt off. But he did a lot to redeem himself here. The action was clear, easy to follow, and as dynamic as you could hope for. Every bit of action was big in the way superhero action should be at its best. In the scenes that were bright, the scenes that were dark, everything looked great. If you had doubts about James Gunn ushering in a new era of DC movies, this movie does almost everything possible to erase that doubt. This is by far my favorite Superman movie to hit the big screens. It's not perfect, but as a lifelong Superman fan, I loved it. I'm going to give Superman a strong super out of 10.